Hi everyone, welcome to the discussion group number 4 and 5 of Introduction to Linguistics. This is Minkyu Kim. I'm going to be TA throughout this quarter. First, to introduce myself, my name is Minkyu. You can call me Min or Minkyu. Either way is fine. I prefer to Minkyu. My email address is m.kim@uci.edu. I'm a PhD student in cognitive neuroscience. I got my degrees in chemistry and linguistics at Seoul National University from South Korea. I will be opening Zoom meeting room at my regular discussion section time slots in and on Fridays. That's my office hours, so you can walk into those time slots. If you want, it's not mandatory. Please feel free to come if you have a question. You can also send me an email to make an appointment to meet privately via Zoom. Okay, so in this first video, I'm going to briefly summarize all the key concepts that were outlined and that were covered in the first week. So basically, there were general discussion about what linguistics is, what language is, and the other half, the second lecture of the week one was about basic concepts of phonetics. First, I'm going to talk about the general linguistics concepts. First of all, linguistics is different from being able to speak multiple language, which is called polyglossy. Polyglot is a person who is proficient in many different languages, while a linguist is a scientist who studies languages in a scientific manner to figure out how language works in our human mind and our mental systems. There's a very important distinction between prescriptivism and descriptivism. A prescriptive approach to language tries to find rules that define the correct or preferred or standard use of language. For example, never split an infinitive, never end a sentence with a preposition, double negative is not allowed. Those kind of set of rules you learn from school is prescriptive manner approach of language, while a descriptive approach tries to observe from an outsider's view and record how language is actually used by the people in daily life conversation. And what we're going to learn in this course is about descriptivism, not about prescriptivism. So we want to catch how actually people speak and comprehend the language, and that's a uh, descriptive approach to language. And there's also different important distinction between language with uppercase L, with a big L, and lowercase l with a small l. So language with a big L, it covers a general language faculty that exists in our mental system. So it's a uniquely human mode of communication. It's talking about the whole concept of language. It's not about a language with a small l, which is referring to one of 6,000 something tongues currently spoken on the internet. Did I say internet? On the planet. For example, in English, Chinese, Arabic, Thai, Korean, those kind of languages are language with a small l. So when you say linguistics is a study of linguistics, when linguistics is a study of language, you're talking about language with a big L, not a small l. We're not studying how like what English is. We're talking about what general language is. So there are many different aspects of language that are shared by all people. They're outlined in the lecture. I'm not going to go through all details for this one. And then the definition of linguistics is given as a scientific study of big L language, and the linguists are the scientists of linguistics. And goals of linguistics is describing the data we earn from all around the world and making generalizations of it. So when I say data, it means collected by recording or transcribing the people's daily life conversation, their narratives, their dialogues and monologues. Those kind of language materials are collected and described by the linguist, and they're generalized into a pattern. For example, how English plurals work, how Arabic past tense works, how French gender system works. Those are the generalization that are deducted from the data we got, that we described from the whole languages around the world, and we come up with the hypothesis and test them, which is a scientific method to see if it's correct, and then you formulate the theories to explain why those patterns exist, how those patterns work in our language. So that's the four different goals of linguistics, which are related to each other, and is a step-by-step procedure. One of the most important concepts that were covered in the first week's lecture is linguistics competence. It's an idea compared to linguistics performance. Performance where is a actual outcome of a language we use. So actual our output, our spoken language is a linguistics performance. On the other hand, the linguistics competence is a mental system in our brain, in our human minds, that enable us to speak and comprehend language, which comprises our creativity and our intuitions. Creativity, it means that we are able to produce and understand words and phrases and sentences that were never happened before. So you guys are listening to me speaking a sentence that you guys never heard, but you're still understanding it because you have your creativity to understand that. And I am saying the words and phrases that I've never spoken in my life. And that's my creative activity on my end, which is a part of linguistics competence that enables me to speak this language. Our intuition, on the other hand, is in our ability to make grammatically judgments. Let's say when we hear a sentence, drink a bottle of water, that's a very totally normal sentence in the English language. So it's our intuition to judge that the sentence is grammatical in English. We know that by our competence, linguistics competence that is in our brain. On the other hand, when we say drink a bottle water of, which is a totally mixed up sentence, it does not make sense. It's ill-formed, it's ungrammatical. You know that by our intuition, which is a part of linguistics competence. Okay, linguistic competence is tacit, implicit, or subconscious. It exists in our brain. You don't know how it works explicitly or consciously. So let's say, you know a word supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. When you read that word on text, you automatically know which syllable to stress in that word. It's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. There are 7 syllables that are stressed in that word, but you know that automatically by from reading it. But let's say I tell you to explain the stress rule, how to determine which syllable is stressed in the English language, in the whole English language, in the whole English vocabularies. You're not able to do that because it's a very complicated set of rules that determines that which syllable is going to be stressed in a word. So if you're able to do that, you have explicit knowledge of language to that you can explain how this works. You know how to ride a bike. You don't know how that like each single mechanic part in the bicycle works physically and in an engineering sense. That's different to this distinction where when we say linguistics competence is tacit and implicit compared to when we're saying something is explicit and conscious. Oh, sorry, there's a bunch of things here. Okay, so there are four sets of four levels of linguistic competence in English, which is phonology. I wrote phonetics, which is typo. Phonology, morphology, syntax, and semantics, because you have the phonology level of linguistic competence in English. You know that the word tabung is impossible in your language. TB is an illegal non-grammatical initial cluster, consonant cluster of in English. So tabung is not a word in English. You know that automatically because you have phonology level of linguistic competence. The next step is morphology. Morphology is a level where where the words are formed from different morphemes, different smaller parts of words. So you know the word reactive is consisted of three components: re, act, and if. And re is a prefix, if is a suffix. Prefix always comes before the root, and suffix comes after the root. So the only possible way to arrange these morphemes is reactive. That's you know that because you have morphology in your brain. But you also know that if act 3 is an impossible word in English because this is not grammatical in the sense of morphology. In the level of morphology, you know that automatically because you have a morphology level of linguistic competence. And then the syntax is a ordering the word. You know that drink a bottle of water of is an illegal sentence because there's a flip in the order of water and of. It should be drink a bottle of water, right? You know that because you have syntax level of linguistic competence in English. And semantics is about meanings. More detailed about semantics were covered already in the lecture. I'm not going to go through it. It's about interpretation, paraphrasing, those kind of how to calculate, how to um, interpret the meanings of a sentence and phrases or a dialogue is done in the level of semantics. We're going to go through all these four different domains of linguistics throughout this quarter. And you know that linguistics competence is not just about knowing words. Let's say you know hundreds and thousands of words in Thai language. Can you speak Thai language by just knowing the words in Thai language? You cannot because you need to know the grammar of that language in order to speak that. You have to know how to utilize those words and arrange them into phrases and sentences, how to combine them into a word and phrase and sentences and conversation to make that language happen. That's called grammar. It's a mental system of elements and rules that needed to form to interpret linguistic expressions, both familiar and novel. So keep in mind that linguistic competence is not just about learning vocabularies. It also has a very important part called grammar, and this is the definition of it. So this is pretty much the recap of general linguistics part of the week 1 lectures done by professor. This is the pop quiz I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna upload it. I'm gonna put it up on the quiz as a survey section. As a survey that is not graded. I'm just putting it up just to check that you guys watched this video. This is a fairly easy question. You're gonna be very easy to solve this pop quizzes at the end of each video if you have watched this video. Okay, so the quizzes. A native English speaker would know that anti-nationalist is the correct word, while nation anti-ist all is wrong. Which level of grammar are you using to figure this out? Phonology, morphology, syntax, or semantics? Okay, that's the end of this video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.